Welcome to our podcast today. Ask Aaron and Ask EJ. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
This Coach Aaron, the source. AJ, it's a dreary day out there. What happened to this weather, man? It's kind of changed on us, but
Right? Are we in Seattle?
exactly. Well, I don't
Oh,
know. Good, maybe it's good podcast weather because otherwise I'd be out cutting the grass, and I still will after we're done. So
it doesn't matter.
it don't matter.
Yeah.
But today's topic: Are you chasing performance or development?
Yes,
I
sir.
think it's a
Yes, sir.
timely and appropriate subject. And maybe some people don't know what they're chasing. But it's one of the things that we always talk about. And what's the motivation for athletes and parents and why they go through all the machinations they go through of, running to this training facility, this practice,
Mhm.
this team over here and this team over there. You know, what's the end goal? And why are you doing this? Just on a base level, because a lot of people get caught on that merry-go-round, and I don't even think they know why. Some do, some don't. But, you know, I guess let's talk about, what it looks like from our perspective, from our lens, and maybe we can shed some light on how you guys can look at what you're doing with your athlete and where you're trying to go and maybe give you a little bit better focus.
Yeah.
Any of that makes sense.
It makes sense to me, Aaron, a lot. I think about, a journey. An athletic career is a journey. And I feel that there needs to be goals and an end goal. And I think, what you just said earlier, what's your goal, man? What's your end goal? What's your game at the end of the day? And, are you chasing performance or or are you chasing development? And part of the having a plan that you're chasing development to get better, to get to your goal, wherever that goal is. When you're chasing performance, are you, like you said, are you jumping from team to team to win a trophy? Or do you just like the satisfaction of just winning for that moment? I believe development is about all these moments put together into this one big collage that has that makes up this great plan at the end of the day. And you and I totally stress development. We like that, because in that you get performance,
Yeah,
So I'll throw that out there right away since you did mention it earlier, Aaron.
yeah,
We're going with that. So
yeah. I guess my mind's going all over the place with this, but I'll kind of just give you my knee-jerk thoughts on this, and then I'll parse them out and apologize if I was a bit. But to be honest with you, from my standpoint,
hmm
there are more people chasing performance than they are chasing development.
right.
Just from what I see, um, you know, people come to us because they have a fix me mentality. You know, work with my kid because they're not running fast enough. Work with
hmm
my kid because they're not hitting the ball.
hmm
Work with me because my kid's not, getting the ball over the plate or whatever the case may be. And I don't, again, being a late bloomer, I really value the long game.
mm
And success comes over time. And I think to maybe use another term, people aren't chasing performance, they're chasing success.
mm
And,
mm.
they want the kid who's hitting home runs and stealing bases and, winning races. And, I get that. And I know that, the the end game for for competitive sports is to win, and to
Right.
be successful. But I think if that's all that drives you and there's no joy and appreciation for the road that you're taking to get to that point, to have that success, then you're kind of chasing a ghost in any of those milestones, hitting the home run, stealing the base, whatever, making your free throws is kind of hollow. And and so I just think you have to get away from that mindset. One, for the health of your athlete, and two, for the ultimate enjoyment that they should be able to take from the sport. For instance, I just had two calls last week. One kid was probably about 16 years old, and then the other is probably like 12 or 13. They
Mhm.
both hit their first home runs.
Okay. All right.
You
All
know,
right.
that's a
Congratulations.
yeah, that's a long time to wait for your first home run. But it tells you that they had a mindset to stay with it, because I don't
Right.
know how many kids would still stay with baseball if they hadn't had a home run by the time they're 13 years old, or 16 years old.
Let alone.
Yeah. So, that's the type of athlete I like working with. The ones that are just going to keep going, keep working, keep developing, and as those successes come along the way, they're going to enjoy them, but they're not chasing them.
Right.
And I just don't see that in most athletes today. And the reason being, again, you get the fix me mentality. Okay, my athlete is slow, I make him faster, and now you don't see him anymore. It's like, well, there's more beyond to do beyond
Right.
this initial uh, you know, level of success. There's different levels of success. And I just don't think, parents understand that.
Yeah. Boy, that's really good talk, Aaron. And I jotted down some things that kind of triggered some thoughts from what you explained. And one of them was this: are we living through our athletes now? Are again chasing success? Are we chasing development? Are some adults living through their athlete and knowing, hey, I know you can do it. I did that. You're going to do that, or I want to see that, instead of saying, hey, the long game's better. Don't worry about that right now. Let's move forward and keep getting better. And that led me to this: do you know your strengths and weaknesses, and you need to master what you're really good at, so people find that attractive. you
Hmm.
know it made me kind of bring out that thought process a little bit. you know you're not a home run hitter, you're a line drive hitter. Why
Hmm.
are you still hitting the ball in the air? Hit line drives. Understand hard ground balls, use your speed, master that part of your game, because that's your strength, and that's an attractive thing in our industry in baseball. And why don't you just do that? It's not as attractive than the home run and
Right.
the glamour and all that, but it's a significant role that type of player plays on a team that makes that team go, you know? So I think about that when you said that about development, and then something that you mentioned was the athlete's mentality. What's the mentality of an athlete who just chases success and performance rather than the athlete that chases development? And I hate to throw this name out there again, but I'm going to do it. You've heard me mention this on our podcast before, people. Michael Iakawa, he chased development, and he's highly successful now at the next level, at collegiate baseball, because he chased development. Michael was a 5'2", 95, 100-pound kid at 14. And I mean, he had some work to do. And but there's one thing that was really good about Michael was his mentality of, I'm persistent, I'm resilient, Um, I'm learning in defeat, not losing in defeat. I'm growing and learning in defeat, and I can pick myself up and keep moving. And that's something that's important in development, Aaron, is that good athletes that have that mentality will do that. And it helps them not only in sport, it helps them in life, man. It just allows them to not be afraid to fail.
Right.
It allows them to succeed when things aren't right and that everything's not driven on, I didn't have success today. What's wrong with me? Rather than, hey, yeah, this happened today. I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna grow and keep on getting better. So when you said that earlier about success, are we chasing success or performance versus development? Those four things came up to me that I thought, people out there should really understand and really, get a good grasp on if they have a athlete that that's engaged in this whole process, which I hope it is a process, Aaron. I hope it's not a quick fix.
Yeah, I just think, from the ages of, I don't know, 8, 6 to probably 13 or 14, it should just all be about development.
Right.
Then your athlete kind of starts to show who they're going to be, in those later years. And then you can say, okay, how close are we to being a collegiate athlete, or how far are we being, or, are they showing signs of maybe being a professional athlete, but
Yeah.
it's just, it kind of rubs me the wrong way when I get these calls and, my kid is an elite this, they're on an elite that, she's on a select this, and they're 8 years old. It's like, you know what, that roster can change with a
My
hundred different names on
my
any
goodness.
given day. And those kids, that whole, I don't know, group of kids can totally get churned through in just a matter of 1 to 2 years.
Right.
And when you're just like you said, chasing trophies and chasing tournaments and chasing, all these other things at that early an age, I just don't think it really serves the long-term development of the athlete. And they don't learn to sit in things and wait for good things to happen
Right.
based on the production of the work that they put into it.
Yeah.
And so, it goes back to all the things we talked about. We talked about our podcast on, holding back eighth graders or taking an extra year in high
Right.
school,
Reclassify.
all these kind of mechanical things that are out there to try and give your kid an edge. And sometimes, well, I don't I'll say sometimes, but the edge is just doing the work.
Oh, well said.
Guys, the edge is
Well
just doing the
said.
work. Quit looking for
Yeah.
another piece of equipment, another
Yeah.
shoe, another bat, you know,
Right.
another video, another uh training regimen. Just do the work. I mean, I just always seem to be coming
Yeah.
back to that now. I don't, maybe that's my new mantra for this year.
No.
Because all of this other stuff is just fluff and magic beans and marketing, and you're just chasing your tail a lot of time. And I just don't I just can't see, a parent bringing a kid to someone like me with the hopes of making them the best 9-year-old out there. No, let's lay the foundation to make him maybe the best 18-year-old when
Mhm.
when it matters and he's a senior in high school and wants to go to college. Everything up to that point is just a means to an end. It's not, this chase for greatness at every level. Yes, you want to be good, you want to be the best. I mean, I was driven by that, but
Right.
I also knew that I had to develop. So this year I'd be at this level. The next year I'd be at that level. The next year, so by the time I went through all these levels, I was at where I wanted to be. But to define every year based on did I lead my team in home runs or
Mhm.
races won and
Right,
all of
exactly.
that just didn't seem to doesn't really seem to matter, you guys, because there's a kid out there who's probably riding a skateboard or a scooter right now, and they're going to decide to pick up a ball or pick up a bat or put on some spikes, and they're going to take your kid's lunch who's been training and doing all these other things for since they were 6 years old, you know, and there's nothing you can do about it because that's sports. That's sports.
Ooh.
And your kid can have the a great skill set, but if he's not athletic or she's not athletic, you know who the coach is going to pick? They're going to pick the most athletic. If you guys watch the NFL draft, I didn't really watch it for some reason. My wife was watching it, but I don't watch it. But I noticed as I glanced at the screen, there's an athletic score rating on all the players.
Yes.
89, 90, 92. They are not just rating them as football players, they're rating them as athletes. Why? Because you can teach an athlete skills.
Right.
Most of you spend your time working on skills, but you don't develop your athleticism.
Oh, preach.
How many of your kids are playing
Oh, man.
soccer and you don't know how to run? How
Man.
many kids are playing basketball and you don't know how to jump? How many kids are playing baseball and you don't know how to throw properly?
Or you don't know how to jump rope.
Yeah. Most sports come down to run, jump, throw.
Yes.
If you can't do that, what makes you think just because you go and shoot a basket, shoot baskets for 2 hours with a machine or with some computer or whatever, that's the only thing that's going to make you a better basketball player. Because at some point in time, you're going to get with the same kid who can shoot just as well as you, but who can run circles around you in the gym, who can jump over your head, who can stop on a dime, because either they were born with more athleticism or they worked on developing it.
Wow. Wow. I say wow because it's true. It's
Yeah,
because it's true.
I
It's
see it every day.
every
And
day.
Mike Alkawa is a perfect example of a kid who worked on his athleticism and he leapfrogged over
Yes.
hundreds of other kids. And now he's the dude at his level.
Hmm?
You know,
Well, I tell you, hey, I'm just gonna drop the mic because you said it right there, Aaron. Well said, my friend. That's I hope everyone out there heard that loud and clear from the source. Uh, and with that said, that's going to wrap us up today on our podcast, Ask Aaron and Ask EJ. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
this is Coach Aaron. We'll see ya, or maybe not.